Welcome to Cryptid Radio. My name is Adeline. I've rigged up this relay tower to bring you broadcasts on the cryptids and creatures of the area. I'll make my way up here every other week to change out the holotape. This week, you get to learn about the time I accidentally joined a cult. As I've mentioned before, my dad liked to tell me about cryptids. Then, as I got older, I started to read about them as much as I could on my own. With all of Vault-Tech's vaults, one good thing I can say is they provided us with a pretty good library. One of my favorite cryptids to hear and read about was Mothman. It started when I would listen to the Mothman Cometh Part 1 and 2 holotapes before bed. The story was just so interesting to me. When you read about Mothman, people always recount the famous sightings by two young couples, Roger and Linda Scarberry and Steve and Mary Mallet, driving home late on November 15th, 1966. They were driving through that old TNT area when they saw something with glowing red eyes standing on the side of the road by the North Power Plant. The creature appeared to be human-like and 7 foot tall. It had huge wings and began to chase them down the highway toward Point Pleasant. When they got to the edge of town, the creature disappeared. But that wasn't the first sighting. The first sighting was actually by a group of grave diggers on November 12th. They saw a large bird-like creature with red eyes watching them from the trees. When it noticed them watching, it flew off into the night. For a year, the area was filled with sightings of Mothman. Some assumed it was hysteria brought on by the Scarberries and Mallet's encounter. But there were men in black that showed up in the area that were asking people to not speak of the creature. It all came to an end, though, when the Point Pleasant Bridge collapsed in December of 1976. Mothman was sighted again several other times throughout history. He was sighted at a mine in Freiburg, Germany in 1978. When the workers arrived for the day, they saw what they thought was a man in a trench coat standing near the entrance of the mine. When a few of the men got closer, the entity opened its coat and they realized it was actually wings. Then it let out a series of loud shrieks. The miners, scared, ran back to a safe distance, and the creature wrapped its wings back up, staying at the entrance of the mine. After about an hour of busy work and keeping an eye on the creature, the men felt the earth shake due to a subterranean explosion. They rushed to the entrance of the mine. The creature was gone, but there was smoke and flames bellowing from the mine. When it all died down and officials were able to examine the mine, they discovered that if the miners had been in there, they all would have died. The Mothman protected them. How cool is that? Mothman was also sighted in the area of the Chernobyl power plant disaster, back when they were testing out fission reactors. He was also sighted in Minneapolis around their bridge collapse in 2007. Sadly, no one could find out how or why Mothman showed up around these events, but I think he showed up to warn them of the disasters. When I left the vault, my plan was to go straight to Point Pleasant. I wanted to see what was left of the Mothman Museum and the Mothman statue. I headed straight for it. It wasn't too far from the vault after all. But there was no way I was getting anywhere near the center of town right then. It was overrun with these violent mutated people that I would later learn were called Scorched. I needed to gather supplies and weapons, more than just the pistol I found on a body at the steps of the vault. I settled in the forest region, just east of Somerville Lake. One night, not long after I'd settled, I was sitting in my shed playing guitar when I noticed 2 red, glowing eyes staring at me. I was thinking, holy shit, is that what I think it is? I put down the guitar and ever so slowly approached. I hadn't been in the wasteland long at that point, but long enough to know that most things weren't friendly. But I had to know. I got about 10 feet from it when it opened its wings and flew away in a puff of smoke. I looked around everywhere, and it was nowhere to be seen. It didn't quite fit the Mothman description from the books, but oh my goodness, it was a huge moth with glowing red eyes. Did the radiation from the bombs actually turn moths into Mothman? I had to know more. but I didn't know where to turn. I just had to hope I'd stumble across more information somewhere. Not long after the encounter at my camp, I came across the lighthouse. I don't know how I missed it before. It isn't too far from the vault. While I was exploring the lighthouse, I found a body at the top of the stairs with a note that this man had wrote to a high priestess. He said he was trying to summon the Mothman. This is what I needed. I looked around for more information in the lighthouse and the house right next to it, but I couldn't find anything. Then, all of a sudden, a transmission came over my Pip-Boy. It was calling followers of the wise and beneficent Mothman to gather the radiance of fireflies and put them into the lighthouse beacon. To summon the Mothman. It's similar to what the note I found next to the body said. So I got a hold of some of my friends over my Pip-Boy to come help me get the bioluminescent fluid from the fireflies. We were going to need a lot of it to fill the lighthouse lamp. I needed to see if it was going to work. Once the lamp was full, another one of those giant moths showed up. But this one had purple eyes, and it didn't run away. Was this a different form? Was this a different kind of moth? I checked what my Pip-Boy had to say. It was saying this was the wise Mothman. So, was this really what people saw all those years ago? But it had purple eyes instead of red. While I was examining it, it opened its wings and I breathed in some of its smoke. For a while after, I felt a bit stronger. It was weird. All of a sudden, it shot straight into the air, like the first one I had seen, and it was just gone. I needed to do more research. I needed to see if anyone had information. People were starting to come back to Appalachia. Someone had to know something. It was time to go to the Mothman Museum again. This time, it wasn't overrun with scorched. It was overrun with people. They were shouting about the holy Mothman. They said they were going to kill me in his name. They wanted to light his beacon. The best way to describe them is cultists. I tried to tell them that I, too, was interested in the Mothman. I tried to ask them questions, but they just kept attacking me. So sadly, I had to get rid of them. The town was covered in shrines and altars. There were Mothman eggs everywhere. I found the Mothman statue that had been put there way back in 2003. It definitely didn't look like the creatures I was dealing with now. It looked like what people had described during the original sightings, with one exception. I didn't read anywhere that Mothman had such a nice ass. The sculptor must have added that as a little bonus for us. When I got inside the Mothman Museum, at first, I didn't find any more information than I already knew. But then, I found a secret passage in the bathroom. It led to a whole cult church in the basement. This cult was around before the bombs dropped. How did I not know about this? How did Dad not know about this? If he did, surely he would have mentioned it to me. I found notes from a sermon where they tried to summon Mothman. Then, the next sermon, on the day before the bombs dropped, they'd been successful in summoning the Mothman, apparently. But only one of them had seen him and received visions. The Mothman warned them that there would be a flood the next day. Which sounds like, I guess they had just misinterpreted the bombs as a flood. I don't know. I also found notes stating that because of the so-called flood, they needed to get to the highest points. So a bunch of them moved to the rooftops, which kind of sucks for them because if they didn't die, they definitely turned into ghouls. But another group broke off and went to the Lucky Hole Mines. I found some books in the church in Point Pleasant that stated even another group had broken off from the ones that went to the mines, calling themselves the Enlightened. These guys sounded way nicer than the cultists that I had come across so far. I needed to find them. I needed to talk to them. Luckily, it looked like they would be coming back to Point Pleasant for an equinox ritual. So I waited and scouted Point Pleasant every so often until I saw signs of new people there. Yes, I know, a normal equinox is when day and night are the same length. But this is cult stuff. I couldn't be sure of exactly when it would be. Finally, they were there! And this is the part you all been waiting for, the part where I accidentally joined the cult. At least it was just for a little bit. I went to speak to the enlightened to learn more about Mothman. I asked them questions, but they were so vague and they talked in circles. They said they were doing a ritual to summon the wise Mothman. I figured it was similar to the ritual thing that I had done at the lighthouse with gathering the firefly bioluminescence. So I was in. But I was wrong. This ritual was different. So different. First, we had to break some vines around these fire pits, and then we had to fill troughs with albino radstag blood and take out totems that were spread across town. Also, we were asked to slay Mothman prophets, which I was hesitant about at first, but then these guys started shooting at me, so my hesitation totally left. Once that part of the ritual was done, Brother Clarence said we needed to light the pyres while he spread the wise Mothman's dust into the air. I thought it was going to be some hokey thing where he sprinkled some ashes, but nope. There were 4 giant aerosolizers on the rooftops spreading this purple dust into the air that started making me feel really weird. The other cult members said they were seeing visions. I didn't see any visions. At least, I don't think I did. But after the dust started, people with antlers showed up and started attacking us. Then there were death claws. Then there were these cute little baby Mothmen, and I started to cry because they were so cute, but the other people around me were killing them. And then all of a sudden it stopped, and Brother Clarence told us that we needed to come back up to the roof, and everyone started dancing. And then the purple-eyed Mothman showed up again. We all praised him and talked to him, and he blessed us. And then he went away. And I did this ritual once an hour with them for a few hours until I started getting a headache and I couldn't stand seeing any more of those cute little moth babies get killed anymore. So I went home and slept for what felt like days. And when I got back to Point Pleasant, they were gone. But I did receive a note from Marion a few weeks ago that they would be back soon for another equinox. So I'm hoping to be able to get more information out of them this time. We'll see. Mothman is still a mystery to me. This new one that there's multiples of, and the one from before the war. It kind of makes him more fun. Because I still can't explain him like I've been able to the other cryptids. Until next time, keep your eyes open and stay safe out there.